Yeah. The option is not coming. Just a second and the option will come, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm making you larger and the rest I'm removing. Once you introduce Nalin sir, I'll make him okay. We are live already. Okay, go on.
Yes. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, this was an amazing panel discussion that we did on branding and how to communicate our brand. But now that we have gone through the entire journey of understanding our purpose, understanding how to create your muscles, understanding how to communicate about your brand, now comes the most important thing, and that is how to get funding. I think that is the biggest problem and the biggest solution that we all are trying to find out, that how can we actually explain our ideas to someone, how can we have that belief system in our ideas that we can express it to somebody else so strongly that we get funded as a staff. And for this we have an amazing personality today with us, who is the chairman of India Fund Fest. He has held several leadership positions, not only in India, but in Europe and US as well. He has experienced highs and lows in entrepreneurship. And so he has a very strong belief system that it's better that you say things straight away to people rather than sugarcoating it. So, ladies and gentlemen, get ready to hear the realities and to understand the secret tips by which you can get funded. I would with this now like to invite on stage Mr. Nalin Singh with a huge round of applause, sir. We welcome you on stage, and I would request everyone to show your enthusiasm through emoticons and in the chat section. Welcome, sir.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible and you can see me.
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. So a very warm hello from Jakarta. That's where I am. And it's much later in the evening here. Delighted to be here. The platform that MentorKart has built is absolutely fabulous. I was listening to the previous panel discussion, and I saw that there were some very good points being made. I will take 15 minutes of your time, and true to my belief, I will save you hopefully a few months of wandering if you're looking for funding. What I'm talking about is early stage startup funding. So don't get mistaken that I'm speaking about late stage or people who have some exceptional quality to get funded. Most things in life are quite simple, but they're not easy. If you were to lose weight, I would say eat less, exercise more. If you had to become wealthy, I would say spend less than you earn. But it's not easy. When you took up entrepreneurship, you embarked on the toughest journey of your life. Unlike a job, here you're president to peon, everything rolled into one. You are the only one who has to build the product, find clients, sell it to them, find and retain talent, manage shareholders and get money from them, manage the 47,000 laws and 3,100 filings you have to make every year with 8 changes every day. Scale the company constantly so that your 3 stakeholders of employees, clients, and shareholders remain engaged, and continuously deal with the competition. All of this you have to do, at least initially, till you can afford people to do it for you. You need the most diverse set of skills required, even more than Superman, Spider-Man, Batman put together. While doing all this, you need the continuous lubricant of money. And that is a skill that whether you are a social leader, a political leader, a business leader, or you're Mukesh Ambani himself, it is something that you have to practice day in and day out, something that you will do all your life. And if you don't pick up that skill, you won't get anywhere. And you can't pick it up by hiring somebody to do it for you. As a CEO, you need to know the basics. When I meet these young people full of adrenaline, thinking about funding is a birthright, I get very surprised because funding is not a birthright, Even to get a job for 20, 30, 40,000 rupees a month, you have probably studied 10 years of education plus 2 years of pre-university, 3 years of graduation, and maybe post-graduation. So whatever you did, you spent 15 to 20 years studying. Then in a very large company, In one small department, they give you the lowest job after training you for a few weeks. And here for entrepreneurship, you just put on a badge of a CEO or of a founder and you think you have it. To become a CEO in such a company would take 15, 20 years of time, but you just jump into it through what you think is passion. Passion only produces babies, not companies. I find these people and I watch them because I have got more than 300 companies funded in my career. I have met 5,000 entrepreneurs face to face across the world. And I watch as these first-time founders flounder. Without experience, without skills, doing it for the first time. I don't know when they did anything for the first time and did it spectacularly well. Without the knowledge, no proven track record, going up to a complete stranger and asking for money without collateral, without interest, without realizing that their offer is not even competitive with the other asset classes on the table. And often they have shown no leadership trait in their life, let alone stand for school elections or run a charity or anything like that. Even in the apartment block, they are not voted. Even in the family, sometimes they're not the leader. Yet they expect a stranger to put hundreds of thousands of dollars on them. I don't know what they're smoking that I have not had in my life. Even in the mecca of startups, early stage startups again, United States of America, when they studied 500,000 startups over 10 years, they realized in the early stage, 95% of the funding comes from their personal funds or friends and family. And the average they raise is only $78,000, which is 50, 60 lakhs. So I don't know how early stage startups walk in with all those barriers thinking they will raise crores. If you're an early stage startup, and I will give you the exceptions, without those 5 exceptions, the chance of you raising money from a professional investor, not friends and family, from a professional investor is 0. Wherever I go, these excited people come and ask me, is there some formula? Is it about the age, the gender, the country I live in, the financial status I come from, the language, the college I went to? No, there is no formula. There are 350 unicorn founders in the world. You look at all their backgrounds, there is no formula. But if you looked at the investment patterns, you would see that yes, men get funded more than women. The average age of a successful company's founder is greater than 35, so it's not a young man's game. If you come from a premier college, because of the benefit of the network, you get a head start, nothing more. Engineers get 50% funding, higher funding by 50%, probably not because they're engineers, but because they understand process and can think and talk in that language. Computer science and MBA degrees don't have a key differentiator when it comes to funding. Being a single founder is a handicap. Being a college dropout is not a badge of honor, like many of the young people believe. It completely confounds me why they think like that. Just because 1 or 2 exceptions came out, which you can have to any data set, they are the outliers to the data set. Just like you could point out an exception on either side to me. I tell them, if you think being college dropout is such a big badge of honor, why don't you look at the companies these successful college dropouts made and point out in their leadership team how many college dropouts they had? They hire only from the top universities. And not having prior work experience reduces the chance of getting professionally funded. So from my experience, here are the 12 truths about funding. And then I will talk about what can accelerate you and what can trip you up. First, despite COVID, even now, there is more money and more investors looking for good ideas than good people with good ideas. There is excess money. Liquidity is a big plus right now. During the COVID time, the billionaires of the world added $42 billion a week to their wealth. They did not become poorer. Second, the best way to raise money is to find clients. Please stop looking for money for the sake of money. Third, and most important, investors invest in people, not in ideas. Ideas are useless. It is about the execution. They are only looking at you first. There are many other things, but first thing they're looking at is you. Next, failure rate in early stage startups is as high as 90% in the first 2 years, but a lesser known fact, even these VCs and professional investors with their fancy degrees, they only have a success rate of 50% in the companies they fund. That is half the marks they got to get into the colleges they came from. Isn't it a shame? After all that knowledge, they can only make 50% successful bets. So don't deify them. They fail 50% of the time. Next, most entrepreneurs don't need money. You need advice. And whatever money you're asking for, you need 15% of that in your pocket. Even for a bank loan, you need that. Nobody gives you 100%. And if you don't have 15% in your pocket, then go earn it somewhere else and then start, or don't be an entrepreneur. There are various ways to find fulfillment in life. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. Sixth, overnight successes have 15-year histories. If you believe the movies and the articles about these glorified success stories, then you are a fool. Go read their history. They just started early. Seventh, have a full-time person to get funding for you, whether it's a co-founder, a friend, a guide, a mentor, whatever, a consultant, but somebody who's competent and knows that world, because you don't. Next, if you look for money when you run out of it, you will never find it. Because when you run out of money and come to an investor, it only tells me either your initial plan failed, which means bad planning, or you can't manage cash. Next, if you don't invest in yourself, very little chance anyone else will. And it's very obvious who invests in themselves or not. I'll speak about that in a moment. If your friends and family have not invested in you, then very little chance that a stranger will. It amazes me how many young people come to me and say they have 5,000 people on their Facebook and LinkedIn and don't even have 5 clients. If you have more social media connects than clients, then you are an employee, not an entrepreneur. Life post-funding is tougher than you think. Unicorn founders does not mean they're rich. Once you get funded, you're nothing but a bonded laborer, and if your pride and ego cannot deal with that, please don't look for money. And lastly, so much is said about a growth mindset, which you need for anything in life, but you can't build a growth mindset with a set mind. Those are the 12 truths I've learned. Here are the 5 things that will accelerate your path to funding and get you valuations beyond what people are talking about. Listen to these 5 very carefully. 1, if you have a patent or a huge entry barrier of some kind, it could even be the law. Second, if you have a human behavior changing product like a Uber, a Flipkart, an Ola, or something like that, you will find patient capital, which will invest in you and wait. They'll probably stand outside your door and force you to take money. 3, if you have deep domain experience, or prior successful startup experience, or some exceptional expertise, it will help. But please don't come and tell me something stupid like I have 20 years work experience. 20 years of doing the same thing every year is 1 year work experience, not 20. It means deep domain experience, some successful prior startup experience, or some kind of expertise. It could be you or your co-founding team. 4th, you have exceptional traction. You have customers coming in hordes, paying more and more per unit, and they're not leaving you. And 5th, you have incredible timing. You have a solution or a cure for COVID now, that kind of thing. These 5 things, if you have either one of them or some in combination, it will accelerate your path to funding and give you a valuation that you are dreaming of. The 6th is, of course, you join my investor readiness bootcamp, and I'll show you how to save time. Similarly, there are a few things that will make you go slower. There are a lot of them, but here are a few. 1, being a single founder doesn't help. It's not about you being too risky and what happens to my money if something happens to you. But basically, it gives me the message that either you're a leader without followers, or you're so arrogant you think you have all the skills, or nobody wants to work with you, or you don't want to share wealth. Next thing that investors don't like is if you don't have prior work experience. Very rare that you have done something for the first time in your life and done it exceptionally well, whether it is walking, talking, running, falling in love, or marriage. Other things that will trip you up is a poor corporate structure, proprietorship, partnership, LLP, strict no-nos, statutory issues, notices, legal cases, not having founder agreements, not having shareholder agreements, unquantified debt from unknown sources. And my pet peeve, poor judgment with equity by giving it virtually free to mentors, incubators, accelerators, and overvalued your earlier round with some dumb investor. I will tell you in a moment what I mean. So many people, because this is a mentoring conference, so many people go out and hire these so-called mentors and part with equity, or go to an incubator accelerator and part with equity without doing any due diligence, without doing any checks. And then in the later round, professional investors see it as a sign of poor judgment. They go and hire people whose children also don't listen to them at home, let alone their spouse. They go and hire people who have just midlife burnt out people whose own companies threw them out because they couldn't progress. No track record. But they give them equity for free because they think they can't afford them. Why do you do that? Many of the founders, compare their companies and startups to having babies. So, an incubator is a lot like putting a baby into a physical incubator and giving it a chance to grow and be healthy. Just like a gardener nurses a small seed or a small plant for it to grow. That's the role of an incubator and accelerator. Do you give a nurse a future cut in the earnings of your child? Do you part with a part of your child? Would you leave your child in an incubator or from a company that was untested? Put it in the hands of a nurse and doctor who you had not checked out before? Then why do you do it with your idea? So these are the kind of things that will trip you up. It is amazing what beautiful times you live in. This is the greatest time to live in as far as this country is concerned. Next 15 years is going to be India's decade and a half, like it has been in the past for China, Europe, Japan, etc., because of certain overarching economic factors. If as a young person you have won the lottery of the sperm by being born in the right country at the right time, if you don't prepare yourself well and don't go in with the right tools, skills, etc., you will fail. And you will grow old full of regrets with your great-grandchildren asking you, what the hell were you doing in the greatest economic boom that the country saw? So in closing, what is that one thing that investors are looking for in you that you should prepare with? That one thing they're looking for in any investee before they look at the idea, the team, the execution, the plan, the financial projections, the market size, blah, 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 blah. The first thing they're looking for is in you, they're looking for credibility. Credibility, and you can only establish in 30 to 40 seconds. In the long term in life, you can establish it by doing what you say and saying what you do, but you don't have that time with the investor. Your credibility has to shine through, and from an investor perspective, there are only 4 pillars to that credibility. The first one, in my mind, having 80% weightage, and that is knowledge. Knowledge followed by your readiness, your collateral, and your personal branding, but knowledge. So if there is one thing as a young person you should concentrate on, if you think you need funding, if you think you need to go to an external investor, it is credibility and building your credibility. It's a mentoring conference, and I often say this. You can have as many mentors as you like. Believe me, in your life, I hardly know of anyone who did not get the right advice. It's just that they were not listening. Hence I say, it is not who mentors you. It is who you listen to that matters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think that this was really eye-opening, and so many people commenting here and saying that they are really, you've really inspired and you've actually influenced people to think beyond the small thinking and the narrow thoughts they think about. So thank you so much, sir. And I think a lot of people are anyway showing great amount of gratitude to you for sharing such amazing insights. We can also, for a minute, if somebody wants to ask a question, we can take those questions as well. If just for a second, I can see. People are just commenting. I think they're so mesmerized that they will need a little bit of time to actually go and implement these things, sir. So, with this, I would request Ashish, sir, if he can come in, join in with us and let us know.
Thank you, sir. I have been learning from Nalin sir for long now. It's almost more than 2 years I've been talking, and I've been listening to him. He's always straightforward, and that's how he makes amazing inputs to people. Thank you so much, sir. I know you don't have time, so I'll make you leave, no problem.
Just one thing, Ashish sir, before leaving, I would like to just share that before Nalin sir listening to your speech, I always had this one thought process that when you're straightforward, you can hurt someone. But first time listening to you, I believe that when you're straightforward, you can actually inspire and show people the real direction. And I honestly, it's learning from me. For me, it's my learning from you, and I'm sure everyone here is going to learn this from you. So thank you so much, sir, for being.
Thank you.
It's always we need to look inside ourselves before we expect anything from outside. So that's how it is. Anyway, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. All the best, Ashish. Great power to MentorKart. Thank you.
Thank you.